It's actually pretty easy to build a personal brand in 2026. I'm Ronny Mitchell, and I've generated 10 million followers for clients.
And I'm Sam Gaudet, and I've driven over 10 million followers for Dan Martell's personal brand.
So there's 20 million followers worth of knowledge in this room. And by the end of this video, we're gonna walk you through what social media advice is good and what social media advice is bullshit.
The boring basic behaviors that are required to build a personal brand.
How to use AI and which tools are good and which ones are bullshit.
The methodology behind what makes a really good hook.
Breaking down why repurposing content is the worst advice and what to do instead.
The 5M method to scale your media team.
Why setting a challenge publicly and hitting it is one of the best things you can do for your brand.
The 3D framework behind some of these million follower personal brands.
The most important role in building a massive audience.
And why you should create content for 2 audiences.
Starting with ranking social media advice. Hashtags.
F tier. They don't matter. They mattered in 2016, but they don't matter anymore. Hashtags are dead. What about you?
Hashtags are so dead. We've gotten millions, 10 millions, 20 millions, hundreds of millions of views without hashtags. I think if anyone is telling you to use a hashtag on a video, they have no idea what they're talking about.
They're cooked.
Editing.
I'd say C tier. I think really good editing could make a video go viral, but I've grown my personal brand to over 40K followers without any fancy editing, and I don't think it matters in the grand scheme of things.
We actually do a lot of split testing in our content. We beta test small variables, and editing is one of the things we beta tested, and I have seen 0 changes in views or followers from having a different editing style. So it's more of a nice to have for creators because they're like, oh, I'm different than everyone else. Look at my unique caption style or my editing style. But it's made for your preferences as a creator more than the audience's preferences because audiences don't care.
100%.
Thumbnails for short form content.
I'd say D tier. When 90% of your traffic comes from the main feed and the Reels tab and only 10% comes from the Explore page and other features, thumbnails already matter. And a lot of people are optimizing their thumbnails for people to click on them when they don't actually know how many people are ending up on that video. If you've got a limited amount of resources and you want to spend those resources on the right things, spend them on coming up with better topics and the other stuff that we're going to talk about in this video, not on making a better thumbnail for your short form video.
If you track the path of a viewer through when they see you first and then when they hit the follow button, where does the thumbnail come into play? It doesn't.
Yeah.
First, people are on their For You page scrolling. They're like in brain rot mode. I'm just trying to entertain myself. Then they see a video that catches their attention. Then they watch that video. Then they go to the account, they look at the name, they look at the I help statement, they look at the bio, all that good stuff. And then they scroll and they start looking at views. The reason why views matter, and a lot of creators don't think about this, it signals that there is demand for you. It signals that there's demand for the type of content you create.
Yeah.
And so they're getting FOMO for not having followed you if you're getting views.
Yeah.
They scroll through a bunch of videos, and more than watching the thumbnail of the video, they actually watch the video itself. So I've caught myself doing this a bunch of times. I see an account, I like it, I go to the page, I scroll for views, the video with the most views, I click on it and I watch it. And so the amount of views that a video has matters more than the thumbnail of that video. I think short form thumbnails matter 0% in the grand scheme of things.
100%.
Hooks.
I'd say A tier. Hooks could be the difference between a video that flops and a video that pops off. I mean, we've been A/B testing hooks on trial reels and on TikTok for a long time. And it could be the difference between a 1 million view video and a video that fucking gets, 10K views. And what I want hooks to have really clear context on what's going to be said in the video. So using 7th grade or lower English. Contrarian insight, something that goes against the common knowledge and you're using your novel but non-obvious language. And then the last thing is create an open loop. And you can create an open loop using unique mechanisms or creating roadmaps in your content, but you want to actually hook the viewer in using those strategies to get them to actually watch till the end.
So good. Hooks do not perform independent of a video's topic or the meat and potatoes of the video. And so if you're downloading hook packs from all of these creators giving away, steal these viral hooks, those hooks are not going to work. The people that get results downloading these hooks from these content gurus are attractive women and very funny, interesting people. There's no one talking about the X factor that attractive women have in building their personal brand and creating content that gets views. There's this creator that's a woman and she's like, this is a visual hook, as she's puffing her hair. And then she's picking up her phone from the floor. This is a visual hook. And I'm like, if you're trying to build a personal brand that has influence over people and people take seriously, what makes you think that pulling your phone out of a fridge is going to get you results? It's not.
0.
So unless you are trying to build a brand that people don't take as seriously, or it's more chill, or you're not trying to be established as like someone with authority, then do those.
Yeah.
But I haven't seen them work. And downloading these viral hooks from these content gurus isn't going to get you any results. So I think that hooks do matter. And so that's why I think you should split test hooks, but they only matter under the umbrella of the topic and the visual that's in the video itself.
100%.
Formats.
I'd say A tier as well. I think formats could be the difference between your topics becoming stale over time or your topics making a comeback, right? And we've had different formats where, you know, Dan teaching people how to make money as a topic would perform really well in a podcast setup. And then all of a sudden we take it outside. We have a kid asking the question. I am asking him the question. We create a new format around it, and it brings back the topic, right? Gets us 1 million, 2 million, 3 million views just by changing the actual container that we put Dan in and creating a new format.
Audiences and viewers have patterns. So if I have a history of watching a certain format of content because I like that format of content, then Dan Martell answering a question from a kid, asking him a business question outside of his supercar is going to interest me. Whereas if I like watching podcast clips, then a podcast clip is going to give me value. Versus if I like watching dopaminergic content, which a lot of people do, then maybe a split screen video of ranking AI tools, this is good, this is bad, or like this business advice is good, this is bad, you're going to get me. And so that's the power of formats. You want to be able to create content that is the same topic across multiple different formats so that you can attack every possible viewer that exists on social media. So I think that's the power of formats.
Yeah.
Ideation.
I put it at S tier. If you're spending more time on camera than you're spending on ideation, then you're going to fall behind. And the best creators in today's economy are spending more time on coming up with ideas, coming up with topics, coming up with scripts, coming up with hooks, and less time on camera, because that's the work that actually fucking matters. My team spends 90% of their time thinking about what video is going to perform the best and 10% in the actual studio shooting it. And if you're a creator and you want to get ahead of 99% of other creators, spend more time coming up with ideas that will actually perform and less time in front of the camera spitting bullshit.
Spend less time shooting than you spend preparing to shoot.
Yeah.
That's really good, really strong. I agree. I think ideation matters most because the ideation process combines what is the creative of this video going to be about? So what does it look like? What's going to be said? What's the messaging? What's the copy? And what is the topic that's going to be talked about? And the topic, whether or not it has demand or there's a TAM of a lot of people or a very small amount of people, that changes whether or not that video is going to perform. So if I talk about how to fix a microwave, how many people are interested in how to fix a microwave? There's no one.
Yeah.
If I talk about concrete, how many people are interested in concrete? No one. But if I talk about how to make $1 million in a job by career pathing and what to do to get to that point, there's a lot of people that want to make $1 million because money is a need in today's society. So the topic is very important, and you select the topic in the ideation process. So I think that the ideation process is definitely S tier.
Fuck yeah.
Gear.
I'd say F tier. And this is funny because it's being shot on very expensive gear, but I am on a journey to get to 100K followers with just my iPhone to prove that you don't need any fancy equipment to get views on social media. Right? And I'm on a journey. I've gone from under 10,000 followers to over, I think, 40,000 today, using just my iPhone, using no gear. And sometimes, especially in our process with Dan's content, some of our videos that are shot with just his iPhone when he's on the road perform better than the shit that we spend, you know, hours and hours shooting in the studio. So I don't think gear matters at all. What I think matters is what we talked about earlier, which is ideation, good hooks, and everything else.
Look at the creator Higher Up Wellness or Shelby Sapp.
Yeah.
They built millions and millions of followers just shooting on their iPhone. And so if you think that you need expensive camera gear to build a 1 million person audience or even just a 100,000 person audience, you are misinformed.
Yeah.
And you have been sold, not necessarily a lie because gurus are trying to lie to you. I don't think gurus try to lie to anybody. I think that they are just sharing misinformation because they are trying to be seen as someone who knows what they're talking about. And so they're telling you what to do, and it doesn't actually change how content performs. Now, we have split tested content on a DSLR, which is a fancy camera similar to this, and we've split tested the same video on an iPhone, and the video on the iPhone got 4 million views, whereas the one on the DSLR got 100,000 views. Wow. Literally same video.
Insane.
And it was just the fact that we used it on an iPhone, a low production video, and then a DSLR, a fancy camera. So instead of saying this one's good, this one's bad, just test them both and see which one works best. But I don't think that you need to have fancy equipment. I would agree with, you said F tier, right? Yeah. I don't think that you need fancy equipment to build a big audience. What matters most is the messaging, how exclusive your content is, like are you actually helping people with your content, and then everything else is downstream of that.
Fuck yeah.
Credibility.
S tier. I think a lot of people skip to building a personal brand without doing cool shit. And if you want to build a prolific personal brand like Dan Martell, like Alex Hormozi, like Caleb Ralston, those people have built their personal brand on the back end of credibility, on the back end of doing something really cool. And I don't think anybody would listen to us if we didn't say we have 10 million followers across all platforms, 20 million combined in this room, right? And so credibility, I think, is something that you should go focus on. That's not to be said that if you're starting your journey, you should 100% document it. But in that same breath, I would focus just as much time on creating new experiences, creating new credibility, than you're spending on ideation. So an example of this is Alex Hormozi already had a really solid personal brand. And then he went on this journey of selling 3-point-something million books in 72 hours, sold over $100 million worth of books in 3 days. And what that did for him is give him another credibility line where he's the world record holder for nonfiction book sales. And he used that line in the first 30 seconds of his next YouTube video. Stop listening to what people are saying, right? Stop listening to just, post every day and you'll build a personal brand, and start watching what they're actually doing in their everyday lives. They're stacking proof, they're stacking credibility so that they can actually speak to their audience and their audience listens to them. And that is what I would focus on if I wanted to build a personal brand in 2026, is credibility and proof.
A personal brand is like your partner you take through life. They're the person beside you. They are with you every day. You are documenting to them. You are showing them what you're doing, but they're not your main priority in life. Your main priority in life is to do cool shit and to get sick outcomes. And then you tell your partner, your personal brand partner, all the things you've been doing on your day-to-day life that is worth documenting. And then that's how you're going to build a personal brand that people actually take seriously. I think a lot of people are more concerned about creating content than doing things outside of content that they can create content about. And so if you are trying to build a personal brand, do more shit. I've said this a bunch of times, I'm gonna say it again. You need to document the things that you've done and the things that you're currently doing and share that with the audience so that people think that you're cool and they want to be in on your journey. But like, there's two things. It's like, this is your personal brand and this is what you do on a day-to-day basis. Most people make their personal brand all that they do, and it's all that they're trying to build when they're not building anything outside of their brand. But if you are trying to build a personal brand, you will do so much better if you're just building a business, you're helping people, you're getting people results, and then you just document that to the world. Posting time.
I'd say C tier. I don't think posting time matters in the long-term performance of your videos. What I do think you should do is look at your individual analytics and see when people are active. For example, if I'm posting at 9 a.m. PST and my audience is most active at 6 a.m., I might switch that, to 6 a.m. just to see if it gets me a better boost at the start. But that being said, a million view video will still get a million views, whether you post it at 3 a.m. or 3 p.m. And if you're focusing all your energy on posting time, you're going to fall behind. Focus on the other things we talked about in this ranking.
I split tested posting videos at 12 a.m. and 12 p.m. just to prove that posting time is bullshit. That's a great hook, by the way.
Yeah.
But I found that we were getting millions and millions of views posting at 11 p.m., 12 a.m., 1 a.m. in the middle of the night, and we still got millions of views just to show that posting time is bullshit and it doesn't matter. I agree with you. So I think you should post when your followers are most active, just so you're actually serving the people that are following you. But in the grand scheme of things, posting time doesn't matter. And anyone who's telling you post at 9 a.m. or post at 12 p.m. or post at 3 p.m. because that's when people are most active and that's when videos are going to go viral, they don't know what they're talking about. I split tested it just to prove it doesn't matter.
They're full of shit.
And finally, posting volume.
I'd put it at A tier. I think posting volume will give you two things. Number one, it'll give you a lot of at-bats. And number two, it'll give you a lot of data. And in the content space, in 2026, data is everything. The amount of data that you have on what videos have performed good, what videos have performed bad, and also the amount of at-bats and reps that you have in the space is going to put you ahead of 99% of people. So if you're only posting once a week, twice a week, 3 times a week on short form, you're going to fall behind. But if you're posting once a day, at least that's the bare minimum, or 2 or 3 times a day, you're going to collect data way faster than all your competitors. What that's going to do for you is give you a data set that you can actually understand what topics perform for your audience, right? And if you're watching this in early 2026, trial reels are still hot. I would post anywhere between 6 to 10 trial reels a day. So volume, I think, is going to set you apart from everybody else. That's why I'm going to put it at A tier.
Right now I have 6,000 followers, and I set a challenge to post 3 times a day. I want to get that to 5 and then 10 times a day because I believe in volume. I'm a volume junkie. I think the more times you post, the better, because every week and every month you can look at your top 10, top 20% of content and just iterate on those. And there's nothing that, like, the most proven content strategy that I've seen to work for all of the creators I've worked with is the process of iteration. Iteration is where you create a variance of a video that performed better than your average. And so if you've posted 3 times a week, maybe even once a day, that's still 7 posts a week. There isn't even a 10% there, because cent is per 100. I mean, and you can do the numbers and just take 1 out of 10, but like if you're just posting 7 a week, that's not enough data to look at. Like, you don't have a 10% of that. So post way more, but I started posting 3 times a day, and then by day 2, my average views were 3,000 views, and then I got a video with 50,000 views. Within 2 days of posting 3 times a day, I had a massive outlier. And then I iterated on that, posted on trial reels. It's also an outlier. There's so much superstition in the content creation process. There's so much self-doubt. And a lot of the time when people are posting daily, they get down, they get depressed about their lack of results. But if they just 3x or 5x the amount that they're posting, they would start seeing outliers. And it's not even that the other content is better, it's just that it's different. And for some fucked reason, it hit a nerve in the For You page and it went viral. Or it got at least more views than their average video. And so that's what I want to capitalize on. I don't think that you can predict virality, but I think that you can predict what could happen by creating a container where things can go viral.
Yep.
And the easiest way to create a container where things go viral is to post way more content and test different topics, angles, and formats. A topic is what you're talking about, so concrete. An angle is, this is concrete, and these are the ingredients in it. So that's one angle. Another angle is, you have no idea what you walk on every day. It's called concrete, and this is what's in it. Another angle is, 3 billion people walk on concrete in this city a day. Let me tell you what's inside of it. So it's 3 different directions that you're coming at the same topic from. And then a format is the way that you speak and the way that the visual is presented in a video. So a FaceTime format is one format. I could do those 3 different angles with my phone. I could do it on a DSLR like this. I could do it on a split screen saying like, this is what's in concrete in Germany, and this is what's in concrete in Canada.
Yeah.
And then another format could be, you're demonstrating. So you're out in the weeds on a construction site and you're being like, this is what they're putting in concrete right now. It's like, there's a bunch of different formats that you could create on the same topic. So if you take one topic, create 3 different angles and 3 different formats, that's 6 different videos from the same topic. If you do enough volume and you post as much as you fucking can, there's no world where you don't build a brand. There's no world where you don't get views.
Which brings us to number 2, the boring, basic behaviors that are required to build a personal brand in 2026. What are those?
I think what's important to understand first is what a brand is and what is the outcome of a brand. I think a personal brand is a buzz term, and there are people that understand content basics and fundamentals, and then they use the term personal brand, but they don't actually know what that term means.
Yeah.
And it kind of irritates me a little bit because I'm like, you don't know what you're saying, bro. So I think a personal brand is the selected associations that you make with the goal to influence a specific type of person. So for example, we are associating ourselves with giving content value so that people who want to build a personal brand and create content that gets views will get value from that. And then when they get value from that, they associate us with giving that type of value.
Yeah.
And then when they think of Sam Gaudet and they think of Ronny Mitchell, they think of, oh, these guys understand content, and that is the goal. And then when we show them that we understand content and they get results from the information we give them, we now have influence over them, because the next thing we tell them to do, they will do it, because the first thing we told them to do, they did it and it got an outcome. And so we now have influence over people. And so I think that is what a personal brand is, in my opinion, from building brands for the last 5 years. I think the boring basics that are required to build a brand are, number 1, you need to spend a lot of time on the pre-production and then the shooting process. A lot of people, they just show up to a shoot, they talk to their camera for 2 seconds, and then they post videos and they're mediocre. So I think first things first, what you said earlier is super valid. I think you need to spend more time prepping for the camera than actually being on camera.
What Ronny just said is fucking brilliant, because brand is association. And if people associate you to a positive outcome, that is how you'll build a successful personal brand in 2026. A lot of people just aim to get views for the sake of getting views. They get million view videos that don't actually turn into any followers, right? Because they're not actually sharing enough value that is going to get people results in advance that gets them to actually follow you for more value, let alone fans, right? People that will actually buy your shit long term and comment on your stuff and reshare your stuff and talk about you behind your back, talk good about you behind your back. And that is the key when building a personal brand, is understanding what you want people to associate you with. Ideally, a positive outcome that gets them results in advance. And I see a lot of people just building personal brands around their personality, which I do think is important. But at the end of the day, people will like you for what you do for them, right? And so if you follow me or Ronny, you're going to get advice on how to grow your content. If you follow Dan Martell, you're going to get advice on how to actually build your business. If you follow XT and Cardenas, you're going to understand how to actually lose weight, right? And if you have a primary outcome that you help people with, that is how you will build a strong personal brand in 2026.
The second boring basic that you need to build a brand is a all-in creative director. And I think this is the thing that a lot of content creators and people trying to build a personal brand are lacking. They don't have someone that is on the creative side who's telling them what to do and how to show up and what to talk about and pull ideas out of them and work with them in the content creation process. This is something that I've seen that is a game changer, because if you're approaching content creation alone and you are the only person in the process, it's depressing, it's sad, and it also is time consuming.
Yep.
So hire a director.
I can only speak from personal experience, and I think when building a media company, there's 3 phases that you enter. The first phase is when you have limited resources and you have an editor and a VA. And that's like most of people's lives are spent in that realm, where you just have an editor, you have a virtual assistant scheduling your posts, and you're trying to build this media empire with limited resources. Now, when you unlock more resources through, maybe you want to spend more time and attention on your personal brand, or you have an offer that's actually lucrative that's helping you spend more money on your personal brand, that's where you enter phase 2, where you bring somebody in like me or Ronny, where you bring in a content manager, a creative director, somebody actually run the ship for you, right? And I've seen tons of people, when they make this shift, when they hire this person, their whole brand blows up, because all of a sudden all the pressure removes from their shoulders as the creator and is put on the creative director to perform. And it's a lot easier for someone else to keep you accountable to posting content, to being consistent, than for yourself to be the person that keeps yourself accountable. And so that's phase 2. Then phase 3, that is more of an aspirational phase that we've done at Martell Media, is have channel owners, have people that actually own outcomes within the business and are driving channels forward. Where in the past you would just have one primary platform like YouTube and Instagram and just repurpose on other platforms. In our media company, we have an owner for every single channel. LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Snapchat, they all have owners that are driving outcomes, so that we're not spending hours and hours repurposing content. We're spending the right amount of time on the right things, and people own the outcomes. They report on those numbers, they have KPIs, and they're driving forward channels on all platforms, not just 1 or 2.
So strong. A lot of people want to get to that place and they jump the gun and they get there, but they don't need to be there. They would get just as many results in the phase 2 section. Find a good director, train them, be patient with them. Because if someone is stepping into a creative director role for the first time, and maybe they're not an agency owner or they're not a previous creative director, they need time to get up to speed. And I've seen a lot of people in the content creation process where they just bully this person, usually a kid, and the kid doesn't have the skills yet. So it's just like set an SLA with them. So this is a service level agreement about what their daily outputs are going to be like. Daily inputs and outputs, and then just hold them accountable, and then over time you just continually add more to their plate. I think paying them more is also a great move if you're trying to incentivize this person to build your brand. Because in 2026, dude, the barrier for entry to starting your own business is down on the floor. It's below the floor because of AI and the internet and information, and anyone can make 10K a month, anyone can make 20K a month. It's very easy. And so how are you going to incentivize this kid who could go start his own business and make 20K a month to work for you? Train them. Give them exclusive opportunities that they wouldn't get outside of you. And I think that's something that a lot of people need in building a brand. And
invest in them. I think a lot of people forget that I wasn't a world-class creative director when I joined Dan's personal brand.
Everyone comes you guys have no idea how many people come to me and they say, I'm looking for a Sam Gaudet, and it's so super funny.
Because they don't exist, dude.
But Sam Gaudet wasn't a Sam Gaudet 6 years ago.
I was zero the person that was required to build this personal brand, but Dan 100% invested in who I was, and it encouraged me to invest in myself. Right. And, I remember my first short form course that I bought, my first mastermind was $24K. And I took that from my fucking bank account, my personal bank account, and I bought that program because I wanted to grow. And if you can attract that kind of person into your brand, into your life, into your business, you're going to grow on autopilot because that person wants to grow within your organization. Right. And so Dan introduced me to the right people. And he gave me the right amount of resources that I could go spend on developing myself, developing, skills that I needed to get to the next level. And, he found the right consultants that I needed to work with to actually learn the skills that I didn't know I needed till I actually needed them, and then I executed. And that is how you will build this person up to be a Sam Gaudet and not find this fucking unicorn that doesn't exist.
I think the biggest arbitrage in business right now is talent. And most people don't know it. If you can have... It's like the theory of collaboration that you said. So 1 + 1 doesn't equal 2 with collaboration. 1 + 1 could equal 3 or 4 or 10 or 100 because the sum of the people together is greater than the sum of them by themselves. So I think there's nothing better than having a team of people that are all killers, that know what they need to do to do the job, and then they do it. So that's what you guys have achieved at Martell Media. The third boring basic is to shoot more content than you will post. There's nothing worse than being in Dropbox and it's 12 p.m. and your alarm went off to post, and you look through all the videos that are available and you go, shit, these all suck. Yeah. And so what you can do to not experience this is to just shoot more content than you'll post. Shoot so much content so that you can only post the good stuff.
Yeah.
You guys do that?
Over 50% of the content that we shoot doesn't get posted. And I think a lot of people don't realize the amount of ideation that goes into actually shooting these videos, right? So we spend most of our time on ideation, and then we actually spend, 3 hours a week on just shooting the video. But 50% of the videos that we shoot don't actually make it to the face of the internet crazy. Because the editors are accountable for performance, and they're picking cream at the top of the barrel, right? And everything that is at the bottom of the barrel stays at the bottom of the barrel where it fucking deserves to be, right? Because let's say the delivery was off. Let's say, something new happens and we don't think it's going to perform anyway. I don't mind those videos sitting in Dropbox, sitting on Google Drive, sitting on, our NAS server, because I know that if we go shoot net new content and we take the top 50% and we post that on social media, then our brand is actually going to grow faster than the other person that's trying to just post everything that they've shot, right? And we shoot anywhere between 50 to 60% more stuff than we actually post, and I think that is the key to actually building a strong personal brand online and getting results.
That's wild that you guys only post 50%. That's really cool. Yeah, I think that's valuable for a lot of people, because most people are just shooting videos and they're like, well, I shot it, got to post it. No, you don't. Yeah. Only post the good stuff. Yeah. The fourth boring basic is to post 2 times a day minimum. All of the creators I've worked with to accrue the 10 million followers, we posted twice a day, sometimes 3 times 4, sometimes 12 times a day, guys. Yep. For Dan Martell, you guys are posting twice a day on Instagram?
2 to 3 times, yeah.
2 to 3 times, okay. And that doesn't account for the trial reels you're posting as well. So we talked about volume earlier, but I think that posting 2 times a day is the bare minimum if you want to scale.
Yeah, bare minimum. And even people that have a solo team like myself, I'm posting twice a day. I'm posting my main feed and I'm posting my trial reel every single day. And if you do that as a solo creator, you will grow faster than everybody else that posts once a day, once a week when they feel like it, because you have a quota, you have a cadence. Ideally, the bare minimum is once a day, ideally twice a day. You're going to blow past everybody else.
The fifth boring basic is highly detailed sequencing. So the criteria for a good editor on social media is, how do your captions look? How's your graphic design? How are your visuals? Do you add music and sound effects? That's not my criteria for a good editor at all. My criteria for a good editor is how well they are able to design a narrative, which is my definition of a narrative is the vein of thought from start to finish. So in creating a sequence that gets attention, you need a strong hook. You need a logic chain. So it's like, we start here, then we got here, then we got here, and it all makes sense to the viewer. You only include essential information. All non-essential information that doesn't push the vein forward, you want to remove. And then don't close the loop too early, because a closed loop signals that the video is done. And so leave the good stuff, not the value, but leave the conclusion that the viewer is going to arrive to at the very end. And you want to care so much about the sequence, because I've seen discrepancies of millions of views just from changing the sequence. Like, we got a video that got 4 million views for a creator. We took off 10 seconds and it got 12 million views. Wild. And that wasn't even on the hook. That was on the back end of the video. It was just shorter. The criteria for views on social media and whether it gets pushed out to more people is watch time and retention. And so the narrative, the sequence, is what changes whether or not people watch it. And so you need to spend so much time, or your editors need to spend so much time crafting a narrative that makes sense to someone who's never seen your face before. Because if it serves that person, it will serve everybody else. So sequencing, a lot of the time when the creators we're working with, maybe the content isn't performing as good as we'd like it to, I always go back to the sequences. The topics, we spend a lot of time making sure the topics and the content and the ideas themselves are good. But then if the content we're posting is either too long, sometimes it's 50 seconds and it could be 30 seconds, we reduce the length of the clip just to make sure that the sequence is good so that people watch it, so that it gets pushed out to more people. So sequencing, highly detailed sequencing, is a non-negotiable if you want to build a brand. Which brings us to point number 3, how to use AI in your content. So first, we're going to talk about the tools to use. Research. Number 1, use Sandcastle's AI so they can actually find other videos once you have a topic. But to actually find those topics that are performing online, I like consuming like the consumer, making a fake account where I actually make a new account on Instagram, follow everybody in my niche, and then everything that pops up on my For You page, on my my Reels tab, is all validated content, stuff that I know is going to perform. And then I take that and I get inspired by the topics, right? The key here is not to copy what people are doing, but you want to get inspired by the topics that they're talking about. Let's say I have an outlier that says, meetings are the biggest time waster in any company. Instead of taking that video and just saying the same thing, I'm going to be like, why did that video perform, right? The topic of meetings and meetings being too long is why that video performed. So maybe my version of that video would be, have you ever been on a meeting that could have been an email, right? And I'm going to start that video that way, which makes it relatable to the viewer, but I'm taking the idea, the topic from the outlier and
packaging it for myself.
That's so strong. Scripting.
For scripting, I use Claude, whether it's short form, long form. And the key here is you want to have a really good system prompt that is built on top of your Claude so that you can co-create with AI. Don't just skip to using Claude if you don't know what you're doing. What you want to do is first create the output manually, right? Create a really good script with all your information, and then ask Claude to build you the system prompt that would output that script. And what that's going to give you back is very clear detail on how to actually navigate through a script, and then you give it back that system prompt with a new topic, and then it'll write a script for you.
Most creators use AI by requesting for it to write a script for them, but the way that I use AI and we use AI that's generated 10 million followers is we do research, we create substance, it's the meat and potatoes. Whether I pull that from research I've done on social media or with AI, I need meat and potatoes so that I can give that to AI to organize.
Yeah.
Most people don't do that. They just ask AI to write them a script about blank.
Yeah.
And then it blows. And so what you want to do is give it the substance, do the research, give it the message that you want it to organize and turn into a good script. And then I get it to write that. But the research portion is very important.
Yeah.
Design and thumbnails.
I think if you want to design really strong thumbnails, you either have to use Nano Banana, which is a really good tool from Gemini, or the one I've been using lately is one of 10.com. And they have a thumbnail generator within their tool that you can actually take people's faces as a reference with a thumbnail that you like and then create a net new thumbnail.
Project management.
Notion AI is really strong. And I think the key here is to build on top of Notion AI, either using Claude Code or some other sort of automation like Zapier, because the constraint in your business is going to be manpower and moving projects through. And if you don't have a really strong project management pipeline when it comes to long form, short form, and having reminders for editors built out, having places where AI messages you when it sees red flags, you want to make sure that you have it built out. And so Notion AI with a combination of Claude Code automations or automations from Zapier and N8N to actually create your pipeline, that is what I would do on the project management side.
Editing or clipping?
Currently, if you're editing content, I would still do it manually if you want your videos to perform really well. But if you just want to pump out like 10 or 15 trial reels, I would maybe download Opus Clips. And if we're talking about more so the details of editing, if you want to create really good motion graphics that don't take as much time as what you would do on Premiere Pro, you could use Claude Code with Remotion, which I've used, and it does some pretty fucking solid work. What do you think about AI tools for content creation?
We majority use Claude. Surprisingly, we don't use as much AI as people say you should use.
Yeah.
And we're on the cutting edge of creating good content that grows brands. Like I've tested a lot of different AIs, and I haven't gotten the level of output that I want yet. What I use AI for in the content creation process is research, learning about a topic so that I can create a script or create a video. Doing market research, like analyzing the problems, issues, experiences that this specific group of people have experienced. And then I take that and I manually create content, because I haven't seen AI create good creative yet. And the reason why is because creative it's a fugazi. No one knows what creative is. Yeah. It's all up here. It's human taste. And so I would use AI to outsource your hands, not your mind. That's the way we use AI. So the strongest job that AI can do is project management and scraping social media, scraping the internet for videos that are performed. Giving a clawbot a skill and a set of behaviors to do so that it can go onto Instagram and take links from videos that it found from scrolling and put those into Notion and say, this video got 10 million views, this video got 20 million views, this video got 1 million views, whatever. You can just go to the list of videos that it pulled and then do your own research with those and apply your own creative. But I have not seen AI do a good job on creative yet, but it does do a great job doing tasks that I know how to do. So I'll end with this. Don't get AI to do things that you don't know how to do yourself. I think the people that use AI and get the best outcomes with it are people that actually know what behaviors go into doing a task and know what behaviors go into being good at a skill. So if I wanted to get it to do ideation, I know I'm going to write down a set of behaviors, go onto Instagram on your browser, go to the For You page, scroll. When a video hits over 10,000 likes, go to the account, apply this Instagram sorter to sort the best views, take the ones over 1 million views, go into, you know what I mean? It's detailed. But because I know how to ideate, because I've done it hundreds and hundreds of times, I can give AI a task to do. But most people have no idea what goes into ideation or any process in content. And so they'll tell AI to do something and it won't do a good job. And so you need to know what you're telling it to do, and you need to create a set of behaviors that is long and detailed so that it can do it. That's how we use AI.
Yeah, the quality of your outputs will be dictated by the quality of your inputs with AI. And the amount of detail that you can put inside your AI system prompt will dictate how good it actually comes out on the other end. And so for us, our system prompt for scripting Dan's YouTube videos, creating his outlines, is fucking insanely long, right? 10 to 12 pages of system prompt language being detailed as fuck, to the level where that system prompt couldn't work for any other creator because it only pulls from what we know performs for Dan, right? What we know Dan would say, the words that he used, the words that he doesn't use, how he likes to present stuff. And so the more detail you can be in your actual system prompt, the inputs that you put into your AI, the better your output will actually be. Which brings us to number 4, hook methodology. What do you think creates a really strong hook?
A lot of people use the term curiosity, and I think that curiosity, if you don't know how to create curiosity in a viewer, is one of the single ingredients you don't need in a hook. So I follow a lot of people that create content or create content on content, and they're like, the number one ingredient you need is curiosity. And I'm like, how is the viewer going to do anything with that? How do you do curiosity? You know, there isn't a set of behaviors that go into doing that. And so what I want to do when I'm creating a hook is I want to create a strong keyword that I know there's demand behind. So regardless of whether there's demand behind it, there needs to be a keyword like parenting, money, business, fat loss, weight loss, content. Like, those are all keywords. And so when you hear a video that opens with a hook about that, you know what the video is going to be about. So you need to make sure that clarity is number one. And then ideally you can pair 2 keywords, and they're both familiar words, but the grouping of them together is unfamiliar. So for example, I just did a video where it's like, if you want to build a strong personal brand, so the term personal brand is a keyword. And then I said, you need to create exclusive content. People know what exclusive means, but they don't know what personal brand and exclusive content together means because they haven't heard anyone talk about that before. And so that creates a strong video. So you want to pair keywords so that people know what the video is about, and then combine words so they don't know what the combining of the 2 means. You have a really strong idea of this. What do you think makes a good hook?
I think a really good hook, I mean, everything you just said aligns really well with, you know, what I believe makes a good hook, which is 3 C's, right? The first one is have full context for what's going to be said in the video. And so the first 5 seconds is about establishing context, which is basically what you said, you know, saying keywords that actually make people lean in. The next part is having some kind of contrarian take, some kind of, you know, angle that most people don't agree with. And if you watch any of my best performing videos, if you watch any of Dan Martell's best performing videos, in the first 5 seconds, you'll understand our opinion about the world that is different from everybody else, what I call our unique perspective, right? And the last part that you want to do in a hook is create an open loop, right? Where most people would say, you know, create curiosity. No, the whole point of a hook is to open a loop in the viewer's mind that they can't help but watch till the end and close. And how you do this is 2 very similar ways that you just talked about. Number one is use unique mechanisms, which is pairing, you know, 2 words together or 3 words together to create something that is familiar but unknown. For example, in my you know, height framework that I use, hook, explain, illustrate, teach, I say height framework because people understand what framework is, but they don't understand what height is, and put together creates an unfamiliar term, an unknown term that people want to lean in and understand. And then you want to also create roadmaps, right? And you've seen us do this in our YouTube videos, and you also see me do this in almost all my short form content that performs really good. Is I have something on screen that is blurred out that creates curiosity that the viewer wants to watch till the end to then understand what is the 3 things on screen that's blurred out, right? And I see you do this really well in the fitness space too, where you have, you know, let's say maybe it's like bowls covering certain ingredients and you're taking them off one at a time. It creates an open loop in the viewer's mind that they can't help but watch till the end and close.
I'll add an addition. What makes a really strong hook is a hook with an agenda that prompts the audience to agree or disagree. So for example, if you make a video about what you think business owners shouldn't do, there are going to be business owners that agree with that and business owners that don't. If you're going to make a video about what you should not do to get fit, there are going to be people who agree with that, people who disagree with that. We did a video with a creator in the fitness space where the guy said, I think women should be able to wear whatever the fuck they want in the gym. And there's a lot of men and women who think that in the gym women should wear less provocative clothing, and there's a lot of women that think women should be able to wear whatever the fuck they want because this is 2026. And so I knew going into that video was going to get views, and it did. It got millions of views. So you want to create a video with an agenda. It's a package that you are opening to people that you think, this is my statement, I'm dying on this hill, do you agree or do you disagree? So that people can then discourse in the comments. And content like that, it doesn't have to be abrasive, and it doesn't have to be super controversial either. It's just, you can breathe through your nose and say everything with a cool, calm, collected persona, but then speak your truth and what you believe, because that content will do better than creating content that's just basic, bland, and there's no emotion behind it. I think emotion's super strong. I think the best thing that you can do to create better hooks is look at all of your strongest opinions about your niche. So what do you see people doing, and what do you disagree with them on? Like, what do you strongly believe in your niche? Write a list of your 100 strongest beliefs. Go to Claude, you can get it to interview, get it to ask you questions, and then just list all these out, and then just say word for word what your strong belief is in as simple a phrase as possible. Word economy is very important, so don't use too many words than you need, and then just state those. And then use a framework, the BITE framework, which is bait, so that's your hook. Illustrate, so elaborate on the hook. Tail is a story where you learned that take. And then end is your takeaway. It's your operationalized takeaway. These are the things that I think you should do now with that information. So take that and go get views. Which brings us to point number 5, why repurposing content is the worst advice you can take and what you should do instead.
I think repurposing content is the worst advice that you can actually listen to on social media. It worked in 2016 when nobody was making content, and Gary Vee was prolific for saying, just film everything and post it, right? And post it on, YouTube, post it on Instagram, post it on Facebook, post it on TikTok. The problem with this now is the stuff that performs on YouTube isn't necessarily going to perform on Facebook and Instagram and TikTok, because the competition has increased, right? And you've seen this with a lot of prolific content creators that were big in 2016, 2017, aren't getting views anymore because they're not optimizing for the certain platforms. So there's this philosophy, in the content space that is called the waterfall method, where you take one pillar piece of content and then you repurpose all your content from that pillar piece of content. The problem with that is you're optimizing for your primary platform, but not all the other secondary platforms that will actually get you more views in some cases, right? Because a lot of people are making this one pillar piece of content on YouTube, but the platforms with the most distribution nowadays is Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. And so they're not even optimizing for the platforms that are going to get them the best results. What I do instead is I don't focus on the waterfall method. I follow my lake method. I have a lake where all my content lives, and every single channel owner, the person that actually owns the performance of that channel, goes into the lake and fishes for the right piece of content for that platform at that time. Because demand could ebb and flow throughout the year, right? Let's say on Instagram right now, AI is hot, but on LinkedIn right now, managing styles is hot, right? And so people are going to go pick in that lake depending on what season they're in of content creation on their specific platform for what's going to perform the best on that platform right now, not just what is being posted on YouTube today, right? And what we've done this, we've made this shift in 2023, and that was the second that Dan's personal brand went up into the right and parabolic, because now we were optimizing for the platform's performance and not just repurposing content across all platforms.
So in other words, a creator needs a variety of topics and beliefs and opinions and messages in their lake so that the channel owners or whoever's distributing the content can pick from those topics because they know what's working on the platform, correct?
100%.
Which brings us to point number 6, the 5M method.
Map your content buckets, figure out what you're actually going to talk about. So for Dan, we talk about AI, business, mindset, and relationships. And anything that doesn't hit that, we cut it out. Why? Because I want Dan to be known for a few things, not everything, right? And in a world where everybody, his personal brand is around what their preferences are, which is really important, I want people to look at Dan for specific advice on certain topics. So, building businesses, understanding AI and how it works, unlocking their mindset, making more money, and also, unlocking better relationships within their lifestyle, right? And so those are our content buckets that we actually map out before we even start making content. The next part is we model our content against best performance, which is literally what we talked about throughout this pod, which is do ideation. What are the ideas that are performing right now? And model, then modify. The key here is you want to do indirect interpretation, not direct interpretation. You don't want to just take, somebody's piece of content that performed at face value, like I talked about earlier, take the hook, take the value, take the CTA, just copy it word for word. What you want to do is do indirect interpretation. Understand what are the variables that made this piece of content perform, and take those variables and apply them to actual piece of content. The next part is you make the content. And how we make content is a few different ways. Number one is we have a reel shoot where we shoot reels with Dan every single week, where we sit down with him for an hour. We go through 15 to 20 topics that we know have demand. The second way we create content is we create a container, right? Where we talked about earlier, in the example where, young kids are asking Dan questions about life, philosophy, and making money. Those videos, we've created a container around, our event called King's Club, where these kids are asking Dan questions, where I literally line up 10 to 15 kids to ask Dan a question about money, mindset, and, maybe AI, where all the topics that we're talking about are validated, and I'm just putting that in a container that I know is going to create really good and strong content. The next part, once we make that content, is we multiply it, right? And this is where A/B testing comes in, right? I'm going to edit those videos in different sequences, right? Where I'm going to post those on trial reels, and whichever one performs the best is the one I'm going to post on the main feed, right? So let's say I'm filming, a video. In the first 5 seconds of that video, Dan says, meetings are the biggest time waster in any company. And then that in the B version, Dan says, I've been in 1,000 meetings that could have been an email, right? We're going to split test those hooks so that we can multiply the content. And then instead of, this is a really good hack on trial reels, by the way, instead of making that trial reel public, we're just going to take that same video and repost it on the main feed. So then we have 3 videos getting views at the same time. We multiply the content. Then the last part is we actually measure what matters, right? And there's 2 KPIs that I look at, the biggest lag indicators, because you said, watch time and retention is really important, which I do agree with. But what I want to measure on a weekly basis is how many views did I get across all my videos and how many followers did I add from those videos, right? And the key here is to have anywhere between 0.5 and 1% conversion rate from a view to a follower, right? If you're getting a ton of views but you're not getting a ton of followers, that is a problem. You're getting a ton of facial recognition, right? You're gonna get stopped on the street all the time, but then people aren't gonna associate you to a positive outcome. They're not gonna associate you to actually, getting them results. And if you're posting a video that gets, let's say 100,000 views, ideally you're getting anywhere between 500 to 1,000 followers from that video.
That's really strong. I love that whole method.
Yeah.
I also want to add something to that.
Yeah.
There are 3 metrics that you can measure to know whether or not you are building a good personal brand and you're creating good content. And it is views as the leading indicator, followers is the lagging indicator, and your 6 to 12 month deal cycle is the ultimate indicator of whether your content is doing well. That's 6 to 12 months. That's a massive time frame for you to measure whether your content is doing well.
Yeah.
When we scale a brand and we start getting fucked amounts of followers in a certain month, they don't start closing deals until 90 days later, which is crazy. The reason why is because when you get views, some of those will convert into followers, and then some of the people that convert into followers, you will start to build trust with. And trust is a time-consuming process that needs to occur in order for people to pay you money. And so those are the 3 metrics that you measure to know whether or not you are creating good content.
Which brings us to number 7, doing a public challenge.
So a public challenge is where you tell your audience what goal you're working towards, and then you are showing them the daily ins and outs of what it takes to achieve that goal.
Yeah.
So a creator that we worked with, her name's Xtine Cardenas. We started with her at 10K followers on Instagram. She now has 1.2 million followers on Instagram. She has 4.5 million followers total across all platforms.
Wow.
She was at 400,000 followers, growing pretty quickly. But we wanted to throw some gas on the fire. And so I got her to do a daily challenge, and it was day 1 of no ice cream, alcohol, protein bars, or energy drinks until I hit 170 pounds or I hit 1 million followers. And she did that every single day for over a year. And in the time frame of doing that challenge, she hit 1 million followers on Instagram. Not only did that help her hit a bunch of followers, but it also built trust with her audience, and it shot up the amount of deals that they were closing.
Yeah.
Now, wherever she goes, whatever city she goes to, she gets stopped in the streets from women being like, I love your authentic content. I love how you show us what to do to eat. I love how you show us that even you're not perfect and you struggle with mindset and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And I was like, when I'm with her and I'm shooting content with her and I see women approach her and stop her and talk about this, I'm like, wow, more people should be setting challenges and publicly hitting them so that they have credibility.
Yeah.
So one of the non-negotiables in building a personal brand is credibility. It's proof that you are who you say you are, proof that you've done the things that you've said you've done, and you're good at the thing you say you're good at. And in order to show people that you have credibility, what better than to test on yourself? I'm doing this right now. If I say that I've grown 10 million followers for clients, what's stopping me from building my own brand? And I'm starting to. I literally started posting consistently every day this month.
Yeah.
Because I want to show people that if I want people to take me seriously, I might as well be able to build my own brand. And so I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
So I am an advocate for everyone who's watching this podcast to set a public challenge. Maybe if you're a fitness coach, I'm going to gain 50 pounds of fat and I'm going to lose 50 pounds of fat in a month.
Yeah.
Or maybe not a month. That might not be healthy. Or if you're a business coach, be like, I'm going to set X goal to make this much money on a brand new Instagram and watch me as I do it. That's interesting. And also, when you hit the goal, I'm going to take you way more seriously and believe that you can actually help me.
Yeah.
So whatever your industry is, pick a goal, set it publicly, tell people what you're going to do, and do it. I think that accountability is something that's lacking in this space. No one is holding themselves accountable, because if I say I'm going to hit this many followers in this time frame, I don't know if I'm actually going to hit that many followers in this time frame, but that puts accountability on me. I now have to post every day. Yeah. I now have to go through this process of showing people what I'm doing, and that's uncomfortable. And so I want to bring accountability back into the social media space and get people to set goals and publicly hit them and hold themselves to a standard. I'm going to do it for myself, and I think other people should do it as well.
I mean, I'm on this journey of getting to 100,000 followers with just my iPhone to prove you don't need any fancy equipment to get views on social media, right? Like that was my whole thing coming into it. And so I knew that, you know, starting off that I was going to share that journey and it would make people want to see me win, right? And I do think in a world where everybody wants to act like they have everything together, right? Like they've already achieved the thing that they want to achieve and they want to, you know, posture themselves as the expert. I think there's nothing more interesting on social media than coming back and being the beginner and going on a journey and bringing your audience along with you.
Keeps you sharp.
Keeps you sharp, and it also, you know, makes you more human, right? You just said it yourself. X-Teen gets stopped by thousands of people and telling her that, you know, she's super authentic. That wouldn't have happened if she didn't put herself out there and took in the risk of publicly, you know, declaring that she's going to get to this point, you know, by X date or whatever, right? And so I think a lot of creators, you know, probably 99% of the people listening to this aren't going to go on this journey. And that is the whole reason why I would 100% recommend everybody listening to do this, because nobody has the fucking balls to do it, right? Nobody has the balls to put themselves out there and say, I'm going to do this thing by this date, or I'm going to do this thing to get to this result. And I'm going to bring you guys along with me, which is every single reason why people listening should do this in real time. Which brings us to point number 8, the 3D framework to actually build your personal brand.
Whenever we're taking a new creator through our process, we always teach them this 3D framework. It's the framework that has helped grow 10 million followers, the people we work with. It is demand, distribution, differentiation. So every single video needs to be backed by demand. You need to make sure that people care about the information that you're sharing. And it has to be pre-validated demand. So you can find pre-validated demand a number of ways. The criteria for whether something is pre-validated is when you see other people talking about this thing in volume. Yeah. So a video that's gotten views for a small account shows that there's demand for that information, not for the creator themselves. Yeah. Going into the comment sections of viral videos and looking at what are the things that people are saying about this video, that's a signal for demand. So taking those comments and creating videos on them. Reddit threads where you see hundreds or thousands of comments on a topic, that is a source for demand. Yeah. YouTube videos that have gone viral. Seeing a frequently asked question on Google or in your coaching community, that is proof of demand. It's you want to find a number of people that are interested in a certain topic and create content on that. So that's number 1 is demand. Number 2 is distribution. In order to get distribution, you want to make content as simple as you can. You want to define all of the terms that you use so that it's simple and it passes the low barrier for entry, because not everyone understands complex terms, but everyone understands beginner terms. Yep. So you want to unbundle all the terms. So look at a script. What is one word that you think that new viewers or beginners wouldn't understand? Yep. Break that down into a set of behaviors that they would observe, and then that's the definition, and then assign a label, which is the word. Okay, so that's how you unbundle something. So for example, if I say, for the purpose of this video, retention, everyone understands what it means, but if I were to make a script and I wanted to be very simple, and I said the term retention, I would define what retention means. Retention is how much people watch your video, and then I would say retention. I would assign a label to that term. Yeah. So that's the first thing you need to do when you're trying to get distribution. The second thing is split testing formats to see what format is getting distributed, because a format of a split screen where you're saying this is good, this is bad, might get distributed better than a format of you sharing the same education but just in a talking head, because that might not get watch time. So you want to split test, so you want to unbundle terms, define terms as people would observe them, and then you want to create different formats so that you find what content is getting distributed. And then the last D is for differentiation. Yeah. When you start talking about demand and you start talking about things that people are interested in because other people are talking about them, you will realize that there's lots of people talking about these topics. So you need to make yourself different than everyone else. Yeah. When everyone zigs, you zag. Right now, we were having a conversation earlier today about how everyone is doing this format, and we were talking about doing the format, and I said, I don't want to do that format because everyone else is doing it, and I don't want to be like these people. I don't want to associate myself with these people. And so you need to share with the world the things you've done, your unique stories, your unique education, and make your content exclusive. Yep. People follow personal brands that produce exclusive content that they can't get anywhere else. Because I saw this video on my For You page, I've never seen a video like this before. Yep. I'm going to follow them so I don't lose them. That's the 3D framework that you need if you want to build a personal brand. Which brings us to point number 9, the most important role you need to build a personal brand.
Creative director. You need to hire someone to lead creative. And there's 3 Ps that I believe every single creative director should be accountable for. And if you're listening to this and you're going to go hire this creative director, this content manager, somebody that actually manages your whole operation, you want to make sure that they understand that they're accountable for these 3 Ps. Number 1 is performance, right? What KPIs are they accountable for? For me, views and followers. Every single creative director reports on views and followers every single week so that I know if they're on track or off track, right? Whether it's, the people on my team or even myself up to my leaders, I want to make sure that I'm being very clear on where we're at. Number 2 is process, right? Do you have a very clear project management process? Do you have a very clear shooting process? Do you have a very clear scripting process within your organization that your creative director can drive forward and improve over time? Because you're not going to start with, spending 6 hours on a YouTube script. What you're going to start with is maybe spending 30 minutes, but then over time, you're going to improve that process, which is what your creative director should be accountable for. And the last P is people, right? Because currently at this stage in 2026, you can't build a 10 million follower brand off of just AI and one person. You still have to have people involved in the process. And that's why your creative director should not just be, accountable for your content, but it should be accountable for building your media team, right? The people that are involved in editing your videos, coming up with ideas, scripting your videos, maybe just, designing thumbnails. Maybe it's project management. Maybe it's, one of your guys' assistants, but you want to make sure that you're building the talent pipeline for your actual creative, operation, where you're looking at, hundreds of applicants, distilling them down to maybe a couple interviews, distilling it down to maybe 3 or 4 test projects, and then picking the best person at the end of that funnel, but then also training those people with your best practices so that they become A players, right? Every single person on my team did not work on a 10 million follower personal brand when they first came on my team, but I 100% invested in them and trained them to understand how to actually operate at that level. And I think a lot of people underestimate the amount of time that you need to spend on training your people, training your team to actually get results on social media.
Yeah, it's a super time-consuming process training people. Absolutely. Yeah. A lot of people hire for a role because they need to, and then the person that comes in doesn't have the required skills to be good at that role, and then they churn that person out. But what is required is to bring in someone that has some sort of skill set. If you can get batteries included, that's a bonus, but they don't always come batteries included, I've found.
No.
And then you need to train them on a process. And if you don't have a process to train them on, and then you don't spend time actually going through what each piece of the process looks like, you won't get a player team member out of that person at all.
Yeah.
I think a good creative director needs to be able to bring the best side out of the creator.
Yeah.
So they need to be liked by the person that's going to be on camera, so that when they're in a content session like this, you as the talent are actually enjoying the conversation.
Yep.
Energy management is the most important thing in a shoot. If your energy is low and lethargic and you're not enjoying the content, your brain, your neurons will not fire. You will not, and when your neurons don't fire and your brain isn't lit up, you won't educate people properly. So likability is super important. The creative director needs to be able to assess body language. Is this person curled up? Are they, tripping over their words? Are they not able to think? Are they bored? Yeah. And so you need to be able to pick them up and poke at their buttons to be able to get them up. Something that I do a lot with creators that I work with is when they're talking and I find that their energy is low, is I just rage bait them. Yeah. So I'm just I don't know, I don't agree with that because of this. And then you feel like I'm disagreeing with you, so you have to prove me wrong. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, once you've proven me wrong and you have passion behind it, we're like, okay, lights on, time to rock. Yeah. And then they're shooting better content as a byproduct of that. Yeah. The second thing that you need in a creative director is they need to be able to be you. They need to know what goes into being you, and they need to know what you know to an extent, and that takes time. But for example, you and Dan doesn't have to sit down to a content writing session because you have his brain downloaded, because you understand a lot of the things that he knows. And so when it comes to writing a YouTube script, for example, you could write the script with all of the skill sets that Dan has because you've spent 6 years with Dan Martell. Yeah. And so with us, when we were assigning a creative director to a creator that we're working with, that creative director needs to get to know them and become, we say, best friends, because that person, when they're in the shoot, needs to be able to say, oh, well, you in this context would say this. Yeah. This is what you would say. Yeah. And they need to have the necessary knowledge to be able to guide them in that direction. So with a fitness creator, for example, if they are blanked on a topic, which happens all the time in real shoots, your brain just shuts down because you don't know what to say. Yep. Lights, camera, action, you're shut down. And so we need to be able to guide them in the direction that they would go if the camera wasn't on. Yeah. And so that's a skill set that is required in a creative director. So those two things I think are the most important. And then everything that you said, the 3 Ps, very important.
Which finally brings us to number 10, why you should create content for 2 audiences.
I think most creators create content for one person, which is their ideal client profile.
Yeah.
This is the person that is ready to buy, and so I'm going to target them. The issue is that only 5% of the market is ready to buy. Only 5% of the world is the type of person that you're trying to reach, much less let's say you're in a niche, that's an even smaller amount of people.
Yeah.
So it's just like 5% of the market in this niche is ready to buy.
Yeah.
There's 95% of the market that could be ready to buy in the future if they are ascended from here to up here with education.
Yeah.
So I'll use myself as an example. I found Alex Hormozi when I was 18. And I wasn't a business owner. I was living with my parents, and I had no skill set. I was shoveling driveways in the wintertime to make money.
Yeah.
But I started following him because he created very simple business content, and I was like, I like this guy. I like the way he thinks. Also, it wasn't even his business content that brought me in the first place. It was his mindset content. He created content about how life is hard and you need to be able to deal with it. So that's not business content at all. But I came into his ecosystem because of a topic that wasn't correlated with business.
Yeah.
And then I started following him over time. And then 5 years later, fast forward, I just came back from acquisition.com in Vegas because I paid them to help me build my business.
Yeah.
He created a customer out of me.
Yeah.
And if he only optimized his content for the one viewer, the one person who is a business owner making over $1 million, which is their ICP, he would never have captured me and thousands of other people like me who needed to be brought from down here, beginners, and then ascended with education into an ICP that they can work with. So I think there's massive arbitrage in creating content, bringing people into your ecosystem, and then taking that person from grade 1 and then teaching them enough to be in grade 2 and then grade 3 and then all the way up to whatever grade they need to be at to buy your shit.
Yeah.
So that's why in my content, I know that a lot of people that get value from my content aren't going to be buyers. Because in order to be a buyer, you need to be making X amount of money in your business, and you need to have been creating content for a period of time. But I can still create future customers by bringing people into my ecosystem, by teaching them how to create content as a beginner, and then what to do next, and then what to do next. And then after they've been following me for maybe 1, 2, 3 years, I'm optimizing for people to follow me for 5 years before they become customers.
Yeah.
Because I'm ready to play the long game. And then once they have been following me for a long time, and there's trust, and there's trust built because they've seen me help other people, and they know me much better, they will become customers, and I'm optimizing for that. So I think that is something that not a lot of creators do. There's two extremes. You can create viral content just to get views because you think that views is going to make you money, and there's people that only create content for this very small group of people that are going to buy. But I think you should be somewhere in the middle where you're doing a combination of viral content to bring people into your ecosystem, and then a portion of super targeted content to nurture, to bring in those buyers, and then a bunch of content in between that takes people from kindergarten all the way up to grade 12.
Yeah, and it's hard for people to understand because a lot of people want to make it black and white. They want to either make content for their niche or make content for everyone. But I think listening to the common advice of just making content for your niche is probably the worst piece of advice that any content creator could listen to, because you're boxing yourself in to only making content for the people that are ready to buy now, like you just said. And when I think about all the situations that I've had people come into our life at Martell Ventures is our AI incubator company where we partner with founders and build their business, where, we had one founder that didn't come in through a business video. They didn't come in from a mindset video. What they came in through was Dan giving me a Porsche GT4. Right? That video of him giving me the car had nothing to do with business, had nothing to do with mindset, had nothing to do with AI, but had everything to do with who Dan was as a person, and got a shit ton of distribution and got a ton of new people into our world that then became customers, right? That then learned about, oh, Dan's the AI guy. Oh, Dan's the business guy. And so I don't think it's black and white. I don't think you should make content for your niche. I don't think you should make content for everyone. But what I do think is you should pick ratios that work for you.
So these are the 10 principles that you need to build a personal brand in 2026. I'm Ronny Mitchell. You can find me on Instagram at @RonnyMitchell_.
And I'm Sam Gaudet. You can find me on Instagram at sam.gaudet. And if you want my free YouTube scripting template, just message me the word YouTube and I'll send it over to you.